third lecture on Hebrew. Today we will study the meanings of phonemes, sounds, morphemes, roots, and words. Hebrew is made up of consonants and vowels. We already learned that Hebrew can have 22 or 23 consonants. We also studied the Hebrew vowels. We studied the short vowels and long vowels, and we studied the Hebrew vowels. The Hebrew consonants and vowels form one element of Hebrew syllables. In Hebrew, the syllables are separated into consonants and vowels. The Hebrew consonants and vowels come together and they form closed syllables and open syllables. Syllables formed through 23 Hebrew consonants and Hebrew vowels are separated into open syllables and closed syllables. In this lecture, we will first study Hebrew syllables. The first word in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 is Bereshit. This word means in the beginning. Let's see how this word, meaning in the beginning, is separated in terms of syllables. We must remember that there are two kinds of syllables in Hebrew, and one is the open syllable, and the other is a closed syllable. In the case of Hebrew, the open syllable is made up of a consonant and a vowel. The closed syllable is made up of a consonant, a vowel, and another consonant. Please remember that in Hebrew, a syllable always begins with a consonant. We can separate the syllables of Bereshit in the following ways. There is the audible shewa, bet. The audible shewa plays the role of the vowel. There must be both a consonant and a vowel, and the shewa plays the role of the vowel. The following syllable would be from resh to aleph. This syllable is a closed syllable. It is a closed syllable because it consists of a consonant, a vowel, and another consonant. Then the second syllable would be the following: shin to tau. Let's look at the reason for why they are separated in these ways. Bet and shewa are not connected to the following consonant, resh. Bet and resh can be tied together into one syllable. If so, then the next syllable will not begin with a consonant, but with the vowel chere. However, all syllables in Hebrew must begin with a consonant. Therefore, resh supports the syllable that connects to bet to form a closed syllable, but this is not necessary and is done by choice. However, in the second syllable, the Hebrew syllable must begin with a consonant, and because chere is a vowel, the syllable needs resh. Hence, we separate the syllables here. The second syllable is from resh to aleph. Likewise, the second syllable can consist of just resh and chere. Aleph can be placed with the next syllable. However, because the next syllable begins with a consonant and aleph cannot be placed with it, Aleph must be placed with the second syllable. The second syllable would end between Aleph and Shin. Because the third syllable begins with Shin, there is no problem there. Hence, we recognize Bereshit as a word with 3 syllables. The first syllable is an open syllable made up of a consonant and a vowel. And the second syllable is a closed syllable made up of a consonant, a vowel, and another consonant. The third syllable is also a closed syllable made up of a consonant, a vowel, and another consonant. Now let's look at a few more words so that we can master the concept of syllables. There is the word bara that comes after Bereshit in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Let's separate the syllables of this word. This word can be separated into 2 syllables. First, the closed syllable that consists of the consonant and vowel bet and kamet. We did not add resh to the first syllable because if we did, the second syllable would lack a consonant and begin with a vowel. Hence, we cut the first syllable at ba. The second syllable is a closed syllable that is made up of the consonant, vowel, and consonant, resh, kamet, and aleph, respectively. Just as we learned when learning the Hebrew alphabet, aleph is a consonant, but it does not have a particular phonetic value. Hebrew native speakers can pronounce aleph, but we foreigners see the consonant as silent. Therefore, this is a consonant, but we will consider it to be silent and it will not be pronounced. The word bara is made up of 2 syllables. Then let's practice with another word. Elohim. This is the word God in the Bible. At the bottom is the composite shewa, which becomes hatef shegol. The dot here is holem. The vowel is hirek yod, which makes the long I sound. Aleph is a consonant, but when it is considered silent, the first sound, hatef shegol, would make the short I sound. Next, lamed. Lamed is like the letter L in English. Next, the dot on top of the consonant makes the short O sound. Next, he can be seen as the letter H in English. Next, hirek yod would make the long I sound. Next, the mem Sophete form. This can be seen as the letter M. Hence, we would read this word as Elohim. Elohim. Elohim can be separated into the following syllables. First, Aleph is not pronounced, but we must remember that it is a consonant. Aleph is not pronounced, but it is unquestionably a consonant. Thus, it would appear as if the vowel comes first, but according to the rules of Hebrew syllables, the consonant appears first. It is an open syllable made up of a consonant and a vowel. The first syllable is an open syllable. Next, the consonant and vowel. Lamed and holem form an open syllable. The third syllable is a closed syllable made up of the consonant he, the vowel hirek yod, and the consonant mem. Thus, Elohim is a word made up of 3 syllables. Next, let's study the concept of word stress or accents. In Hebrew, there is a stress on the last syllable unless marked otherwise. Then let's look at the three words that we previously studied. We will be able to know what part of Bereshit bara Elohim is stressed. First, there is a stress on the last syllable of Elohim as it says on the board. Hence, when we pronounce this, we would say Elohim. Second, let's look at Bereshit, the first word we studied. Bereshit consists of 3 syllables. Based on the premise that Bereshit does not have any distinct marks, the last syllable would be stressed. Therefore, we would pronounce it Bereshit. Next, bara. Bara is separated into 2 syllables. This word does not have any particular marks, so the last syllable of bara would be stressed. When reading bara, it would have a nearly accurate pronunciation. Please remember that if there are no particular stress marks, the last syllable of all Hebrew words will be stressed. Then let's look at an example of a word with a particular mark. The last part of Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 includes the following word. Please follow along. Haaretz. Haaretz. We will study this in the future, but ha is a definite article. Next, aretz means earth. This would be the earth. There is a vertical line next to kametz in Arets. This is called meteg. This is a mark that indicates a stress. Generally, the last syllable would be stressed, but in this case, the mark indicates that a stress is put on the a. Meteg is a mark that indicates a stress. Therefore, this word is different from a normal case in which the stress would be placed on the last syllable, in that the stress is put where there is the meteg. Hence, it is pronounced in the following way: ha-a-ret. Next, let's study Hebrew prefixes and suffixes. There are parts of speech in Hebrew that consist of verbs, nouns, and relative words. There are different words for the end of a word and the beginning of a word in the parts of speech. Let's look at Hebrew nouns as an example. There is the word melek. Mem, lamed, kaf. Kaf is generally used in this way, but when it comes at the end of a word, it is written like this. The first vowel is shegel, and the second vowel is also shegel. Here we mark mem with m and shegel with e, lamed with l, shegel with e, and lastly kaf with k. We read this as melek. This means king in English. Then let's see how we would write the word queen. We will study the changes in vowels next time, and today we will study the endings of words. In the last part, the vowel kamets and he are put together. This means queen. Like this, the ending of the noun changes the meaning of the word. In this way, the words that are put at the end of a word are called suffixes. We discussed the concept of suffixes through an example. Now let's look at the concept of prefixes. We will use verbs from among the verbs, nouns, and relative particles to explain prefixes. Verbs have past tense forms in English. Let's look at the word melek, which we just studied. This is a noun that means king. Here is the vowel shegel. However, when we change the vowel and add kamets and patak, it becomes malak. I will explain this one more time. Mem is marked M, kamet is a long A, next lamed is L, next patak is marked with a short A, next kap is marked K. We would read this as malak. Hebrew verbs fundamentally have the vowels kamet and patak. These are vowel forms of verbs that are applicable to past tense forms. Thus, it would mean he ruled. Now let's change this word into a present form or future form. In such cases, we would use the following mark. Please read along. Imlok. The vowel sounds changed from a to o. More importantly, words with yod and hirek were put before words. They are put at the beginning of words, which we call prefixes. Furthermore, just as we added words to the ends of words, I will write queen. Queen. Like this, words that are added to the ends of words are called suffixes. Prefixes, suffixes. We have studied the changes made to words and their meanings according to the prefixes and suffixes that are added to nouns or verbs. Next, let's study roots and ends of words. We will use the word imlok. Imlok. This means he will rule. There are parts of this word that is a root, a prefix, and a suffix. This word stemmed from the word malak. It changes into a perfect tense, imperfect tense, past tense, and future tense, depending on what is placed before it. Now keep these tenses in mind as we study strong verbs, weak verbs, and roots of irregular verbs. Hebrew verbs can be separated into 3 groups. First, strong verbs. Second, irregular verbs. Third, weak verbs. Hebrew verbs are basically made up of 3 kinds of consonants and the basic vowel forms kamet and patak. All 23 Hebrew consonants can be put in the squares here. As an example, we studied the word malak. Mem, lamed, and kap are consonants called strong letters. We must know what weak letters and guttural letters are in order to know what strong letters are. Guttural letters are consonants with sounds that are formed in the neck when pronounced. There are 4 of these in Hebrew. Aleph, He, Het, Ayin. We call them guttural letters. When any of these 4 letters are added to consonants of Hebrew words, they become irregular verbs. Let's look at an example. There is a verb called shala. We can see here that the 3rd consonant is a guttural letter, he. Let's write this on top. Hebrew is written from right to left. Therefore, the first consonant would be shin. The second consonant would be lamed. The third consonant would be he. He is one of the 4 guttural letters. Therefore, this verb would be classified as an irregular verb. We can use the same method to explain weak verbs. Weak verbs are verbs that include weak letters. The weak letters in Hebrew are Aleph, He, Nun, and Yod. I'm sorry, Waw and Yod. Let's read it one more time. Aleph, he, noon, waw, yod. When a word has any of these consonants, it becomes a weak verb. Let's look at an example. The verb natan. Noon, tao, noon. Let's look at the first part. The consonant noon is at the beginning and the end. Noon is one of the weak letters. Hence, the word natan is classified as a weak verb. Any word that does not have any of the 4 guttural letters that form irregular verbs and the 5 weak letters that form weak verbs are called a strong verb. With this, we will wrap up our studies of strong verbs, irregular verbs, and weak verbs. With this, we will conclude the 3rd lecture on Hebrew. Thank you.